Can you hear me? I can't hear you yet. Okay. No, I've got two of you on here, but neither one with any sound. Andrew, how are you?
Hey, Charlie, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're just trying to figure out how to get Josh to have some sound. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just
All right.
busy, but
Terrific.
that's a good thing. Yeah.
I love all these stupid things. It comes down to computers or not, I could live without them. Oh, well. Busy at your place, or are things
Yeah.
winding down for the holidays?
No, we're still busy.
Great.
I mean, usually this time of year, like before the ISS show, it always seems to kind of wind down a little bit, but we're not seeing that yet.
Huh. Well, that's
But
a good
it always seems to, yeah, it always seems to kind of hit quickly the wind down right before the show, it seems like. So
yeah,
we'll
well,
see. But
yeah, I mean, usually, screen print, December is usually the beginning of the kiss of death. From December through March, things are usually not booming. I mean, embroidery is
yeah,
usually pretty heavy duty at this time. Screen print,
yeah.
not so much.
Huh.
But ever since the pandemic, things have gone in
Yeah,
strange ways.
everything's out the window. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah,
So I don't think anybody knows what to expect anymore.
I know. Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, I agree. Charles, you're on.
Yeah.
Still have Josh trying to get sound on.
Audio.
Yes. Charles is on with us. I haven't seen you in a while, Charles. How are you?
Hey there, Charlie. Doing good. I was
Terrific.
doing some
You
trying to
busy
get
at
my
this?
audio connected here.
Are you? Is your screen print busy at this time, or do you do embroidery as well?
Yeah, we're doing both, and we hold on a second. Let me get my video on. We've been pretty busy. We're slowing down now. We always do for Christmas time. So I was
Yep.
expecting it to kind of fade off this next week, but that's okay. We get a 2-week break.
Yeah.
We can
Well,
and then get back into it.
you find that embroidery is busier now than screen print, or are you pretty well even on both?
Yeah, about even. It's about
No,
the
not,
same.
not bad.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Why is it that embroidery kind of picks up this time of year and screen print slows down? Why is that shift normally?
Usually it's because of personalization. So on
Yeah.
embroidery, you can do a jacket or a sweatshirt or whatever with just somebody's name on it.
Yeah,
Whereas screen print, you're doing more multiple situations. I would guess if you have DTG machines, they would be fairly busy at this point as well.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. One thing for us, especially in our business, we do a lot of school orders, a lot of sports orders. And so all that is stopping right now. So our screen print side kind of slows down a lot. But then we are doing a lot more embroidery for Christmas gifts. You know, a lot of businesses, like right now I'm working on some hats for a vet clinic that they're giving their employees as Christmas gifts. They've been doing some, you know, quite a few jackets for companies that they're giving to as Christmas gifts, that kind of thing. So it just
Makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally why embroidery picks up, is because of all of the onesie twosies or individual personalization, et cetera. Maybe combined
Yeah.
with screen print or maybe all embroidery or just name drops. But hard to figure out anything right now. As long as you're busy, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. One
So
of
you
these
had a
days,
lot of snow out in Colorado, Charlie?
we have hardly had anything.
Yeah.
It's in the 50s today. And
Wow.
it's been, it drops tomorrow down into the 40s, which for this time of the year is really good for us.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of minor snow amounts, nothing that's been over 3-4 inches for the most part, at least in the area where I am. Mountains have been getting hammered, which is great. They want the snow. Me, if I don't see snow all winter, I won't feel bad about it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something about having to go out there and shovel that just doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
So
Yeah.
it'll do whatever it does, but it's actually been quite mild. I mean, I think we hit 60s last week, which is pretty unusual for us at this time of the year. We're probably about 10 degrees above normal on average. So how's
Yeah.
it been out in your area?
It's kind of the same. It's been much more of a mild start to winter for sure. It seems like last year and the year before, it just went straight from summer to winter and we had no fall and it just was all of a sudden freezing.
Well,
And it's 40 something today. So it's pretty nice.
Last year, we didn't get our first snows until the end of December. I mean, we didn't have a trace of anything,
Yeah.
which was the latest it's ever come in. And I think, what was it, the year or two before that, we had one of the earliest storms. We had snow at the beginning of September, which is pretty unusual as well.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of it not coming up until the end of December myself, but I have my own reasons for that. Something about shoveling that just doesn't do it for me. Of course, I don't have to worry about that. My wife jumps out there and does it. So
Oh, nice.
that makes it a little bit easier, if nothing else.
Yeah. You just have to watch.
Yeah, I think she's got to
Cheer
get
on,
used to it. I'm
yeah.
going to be having knee replacement surgery right after the ISS, the Long
Oh,
Beach
really?
show. Yeah, we finished the show on Sunday and Tuesday I go in. So
Wow.
don't know what that kind of recovery is going to be like, but I'll find out certainly.
Yeah. Wow.
I've been needing
Hey,
it.
Charlie, can you hear me?
I can. Is that you, Josh?
Yeah, sorry about that. I have to join from my phone. I'm trying to come in on video now. Apologies, man.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. Decided I really should have done this 2 years ago when the pandemic first hit. Of course, who knew that we were going to be out for any length of time? Otherwise, I could have had
I
one knee
know.
done, and by this point, I could have probably had the second one done. But
Yeah.
Oh, well. But I'm at the point where I just have to get it done. It's just driving me out of my mind. Going up and down stairs or doing anything else has just been brutal.
Yeah. It, I don't know what the recovery is like for that particular surgery, but it seems like anyone that I've talked to that's had a knee replacement or hip replacement, they're playing golf the next week. It's seems to go
Not
pretty
quite,
quick.
not quite that fast, but yeah,
Yeah.
hip replacement definitely is faster
Okay.
than knee. I mean, I've got myself booked to do a show at the end of February, so I'm hoping that from January 22nd till the end of February, got about 5 weeks to try and get myself together on that. Although I've got a company that wants me to go to Bangladesh about 2.5 weeks after surgery. And I basically said, let me see what I feel like before I want to get on a plane for 30
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Pretty confident that I'm not going to Bangladesh.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. The plane ride would be the toughest part about
Oh
that.
yeah, absolutely. But the show at the end of February is in Kansas City, so it's an 1.5 hour flight, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And see how that comes together. But yeah, I mean, they basically tell you full recovery is going to take about 9 to 12 months. Full meaning everything
Yeah.
is back to
Wow.
some kind of normal stage. Yeah, but almost everyone that I know didn't bother with crutches or even with a cane. They just kind of got out there and started muscling their way through it. So I've been actually exercising for the first time in years again, trying to build up my leg muscles. I mean, I used to be a runner,
Yeah.
and of course, I gave up on running years ago, which is why my knees are gone. So who knows? We'll see how things go. Josh, are you still working your way on?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the camera, man. My computer is being completely uncooperative.
Well, of course it is. Well, that's all right. Even without seeing your smiling face, although I do have you on two things, one with your voice, one with where your camera would be, I guess. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. How about everybody else?
Pretty good. I was wanting to get you on just to kind of discuss Printing United, where things are going, what kind of plans you guys have for down the road certainly for textile people.
Well, that's a big question. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
I realize that.
Where you want to start with, what the game plan's been, what we think we got done this year, where we're headed for like textiles and
guess,
apparel specific.
yeah, well, I guess a bit of a recap, Pretty United, as far as where things were, and what you might be doing differently down the road or the same or whatever when it hits Atlanta next year.
Yeah. So just kind of to recap, prior to coming over, I think there was definitely a feeling of getting away from the roots where what was traditionally SGIA and prior to that, the Technical Screen Printing Foundation had kind of gone through a digital evolution in the 90s and early 2000s and so on. And with the acquisition of NAPCO Media and the merger with Idea Alliance and PIA, I think our community got kind of left out, but not by design. You combine with a media company that has 7 vertical brands for other print segments except apparel. It wasn't an intentional choice to kind of leave that out. I think they had to do some listening, and they kind of assembled a team, which I'm glad and kind of honored to be part of. But there's 5 or 6 of us here now who are hyper focused on keeping connections with this community. And so we got the Apparelist launched, to satiate that conduit to communicate with the community in about a year, coming up on a year in January. And it's been awesome. I think the feedback has been great. There was a lot of smart people who were listening, and they maybe, couldn't act as fast as the market wanted them to, but they really did their homework. And they came up with what people were really looking for. Don't tell me how to print, tell me how to run my business is basically the adage. And that's been received well. And I think that, with the expo we just had in Vegas, that was, I had people walking up saying, this is the biggest resurgence I've seen for this segment in a long, long time, if ever. There was definitely a vibe. I thought it was great. And heading into Atlanta, I think we learned a lot of lessons. First year back, I mean, man, there wasn't a show for 3 years. So everybody had to dust the boots off and figure out how we do this again. And a lot of valuable lessons learned, but thank God everything went really, really well. It was all positive lessons. And we got some fun new things in the mix for Atlanta.
I guess I have some questions myself. I used to do a lot of workshops at SGI headquarters, and seems that they've abandoned all of that. Don't know whether they're looking at doing anything down the road in the way of workshops at the facility again or not.
So outside of apparel, there still are some shops going there. I know Ray Weiss is doing his PDAA certifications there because he can actually certify. As far as apparel goes, I'm not aware of any workshops we have upcoming, just with the problems of trying to get a small limited number of people to Fairfax into that facility. I have not tackled that one yet, but I think it's probably coming down the pipe. That's something I'll have to kind of look at. But I'll be talking to people like you, Charlie, and see how those were attended. Did they make sense? I've seen the space, I've seen the equipment, and it's awesome. But as it sits right now, you probably couldn't put more than 5 or 10 people in there and actually have an active class the way it's gotten over the last 2 years.
Well, they've never really allowed, quote unquote, for more than 10 to 12 people to begin with. I mean, I've had them where I've had 20 there, which was pretty brutal. In general,
I feel like we could record these and we could actually get more, there could be more value in them by bringing it to the people versus trying to bring the people there.
No, you know what? I mean, I started doing them, I think, in about 2004, and never had one canceled. We always made the minimum, which was usually about 6 or so. And in general, usually had about 8 to 10, which was pretty much what they really wanted, was somewhere around the 8 to 10 range. Big difference between hands-on and virtual. Virtual certainly has its positive moments. I'm still thinking that hands-on, you just can't replace that. There's something about not only doing a demo, but having everybody else perform the same task.
No, you're talking to a trade show guy here. I'm always going to vote for in person. I just don't know if it's going to be plausible. I mean, a lot of that equipment is on consignment. Some of it might be taken back and sold due to shortages. There's a bunch there. And quite honestly, I haven't wrapped my head around it yet, but I have seen the area. I think it's a really cool idea. I think there's some other folks out there kind of, doing that and putting on the workshops with how people travel. It's something to look at while we have the equipment. But again, I can't vouch that equipment will always be there because, as I understand, it is on consignment and it could be sold at any moment if needed to be.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has ever bailed on the equipment there, and all the year. What they've done over the years is they've actually sold off and replaced it with newer versions, but they've never been short on equipment there.
That would be ideal, but I think a lot's changed in the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now you don't have anyone there that can actually deal with the whole hands-on situation, at least not for textiles. I know Ray is there, but he's a digital guy.
Yeah, no, Ray is awesome, but he would not do any kind of screen printing classes or things like that.
We certainly have a lot of information from over the past years in terms of all of the manuals and handouts and all that stuff. But in any event, I just wanted to check. So for down the road, I know you're doing, the whole thing with Cassie and stuff. And I noticed she's doing a fair amount of shop visits and stuff, and certainly one-on-ones with some of the people in the industry. I assume that's going to continue.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's been a great source. People have found that. I would say they must be finding it valuable because they're reading it and they're watching it, which is great. Yes, if the question is that going to continue? Yeah, full force ahead. I expect the Apparelist to kind of grow with launching it last year, kind of seeing what the market response has been to it. I think we're dead on with the content strategy. I think we've got the right people. I think we're covering the right things, and we'll continue to massage that and try to dial it in to make it as useful as possible and as less intrusive as possible.
So I noticed with all of the Printing United stuff, almost all of the webinars and stuff, or the Zoom sessions or whatever you want to call them, are predominantly digital situations. Even if they happen to touch into textiles, it seems to always be digital. Any plans on doing other than that?
Well, that's kind of the chronic thing that a lot of us are brought here with the expectation. That was the feeling that we had, when we looked at it from the outside, and now that we're here, that's part of the problem we are facing. Is how do we make the apparel decoration community a bit more prevalent? How do we make it a bit more relevant for them? There's a number of things we're doing. We're working with suppliers to try to grow our panel of consistent respondents in our studies and our reports to better reflect and better be more weighted and representative of the apparel decoration market, and that those members have to call in with problems. Some of those Ask the Experts webinars, I think the ones you're kind of talking about, where Gary gets on and talks about OSHA or whatever it is because it's being driven by the demand we're seeing, right? So these people are calling in, using those as examples, and they might not be as familiar with the other side. I think that there's still a massive awareness and branding issue we're facing from SGIA to Printing United, and what all that entails, and what we're kind of here to do. And that's just going to be a process. I mean, look, everything happened right when the world shut down, so the wheels are just kind of getting turning again, if you think about it.
Well, I mean, part of not having textile printers call in is because there's no one at Printing United that can answer questions on the textile side. In the past.
Well, as it relates to OSHA, I don't think that's true. I mean, with OSHA, it doesn't depend if it's textile screen printing, right? It's a use case example, but it's a workplace safety violation, not a technical how-to.
No, I agree with you on OSHA, but if I have a technical problem in the past, not relating to OSHA or anything, but just a technical problem, I was able to call into SGIA, and they would either be able to answer a question or hook me up with someone who could potentially work that out for me, or at least try and guide me through it. And I think part of the issue is who's there now that could possibly direct me or answer a question.
Yeah, so that would come into our membership services, our membership department, and if those questions come in, right now they're doing exactly what you said. They're kicking it over to like us at the Apparelist, and we're helping based on the problem connect with certain people if and when the situation arises. I don't think the volume is there yet, though. If that makes sense. I think from a membership perspective, we need more apparel decorators to be members and use those services, and actually have a need and a demand for it.
Well, I think part of it is, I think from the apparel decorating side, or certainly from the screen print side, no one feels that there's someone there that can answer that question, so they're not posing questions on that level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know all those questions.
I lost you. I think you fell into a tunnel. There you go. couldn't hear you.
Hey, Charlie, you there?
I think I got you back.
Yeah. I don't know if what I was saying was, I don't know if the level of questions was that high when there technically were or weren't people here before. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what those numbers are. I don't know if 2 people were calling a month or if 200 people were calling a month.
Yeah, right. And I don't either. I just know, with some of the people I've discussed that were members, quote unquote, of SGIA for years, they've basically dropped out of it saying, they don't feel like they're getting anything out of the membership at this point. And I mean, certainly,
I would love to talk to them.
Okay.
Because
Well,
it's
I was
beyond the
hoping one
technical
of them
side, right?
I was hoping one of them would be on, but I think he's tied up with something. But Sean is one of the guys. Matter of fact, he is in the Atlanta area, and I think he mentioned to me that he just stopped his membership for that reason.
So that would be, so if you were basing your membership on the value being, I want to call somebody and ask a technical question, I can see that. But that's not really what the association, I think, does. It's also access to the other data it takes to drive your business. Anybody who owns a business has to forecast. And asking a technical question isn't going to help you forecast. But looking at industry data, if it's relevant, can certainly do that. Or if it's an affinity program, or if it's a deal with, things like that. There are other benefits beyond, I think, a technical ask the doc type question that would be the value in what's $400 a month to have access to the wages and benefits surveys, or the, how do you mark up, how do you stack up with your competitors and what you're offering as far as pay and compensation? What's the economy doing? What are people doing with capital investment? What are those indicators coming down the pipe that are going to help you run your business more so than a technically proficient question?
Well, and they're not just looking at it from the technical side, but certainly from other ends of it as well. And I totally agree with you as far as, wage surveys and any of the information that can help them run the business better is certainly worthwhile. I wish I could get Sean Lefebvre on here, because he's one of the guys who is definitely looking at why he's not re-upping his membership.
Yeah, I mean, those are things I'd love to hear. And if that was the main reason, I'd be interested to hear that. That's something I can take back and kind of run up the flagpole, so to speak. But also, are other people were even aware of the other stuff that's available to them, right? Like, I think that's kind of what blew my mind when I kind of came over here and was like, oh, I thought the same thing. Like, oh, okay, you're an association. What do you do? And then I started seeing all the research, all the subject matter experts. And when I say that, I don't mean just on digital or screen. I mean human resources, HR, economics. The big drivers that move things. That was. It's like, this is $400 a year. I mean, that one report is worth it, in my mind. I mean, having anybody who is having to forecast a business and having to base your numbers on something, that North Star is almost invaluable. Some kind of empirical data to help justify why you're telling the bank or you're telling your boss, this is where we're going to be next year.
Well, listen, I've been a member for over 40 years. I mean, I don't have a problem with all of that. I'm just kind of relaying some information over. But
Yeah,
Charles,
what the bigger
the,
I think that's kind of dependent on the size of your shop, because some of that information, there's a lot of information that Premium United has on the membership boards, but it doesn't apply to everybody. A lot of that is really applies to some of the bigger shops that have huge employee base, that have a lot of OSHA stuff going on and that kind of thing. So it's kind of, I will say that I have my membership so that I could take the educational classes at the trade show. And now that Printing United has gotten rid of all the education classes, there's absolutely no incentive for me to pay the membership fee any longer.
That was the only reason you had the membership, was to get access to those sessions, which just to be clear, I don't think they've gotten rid of them. That was based on data and usage from the 2019 year. And then we'll look at the reports this year. And in my mind, because again, I'm a trade show guy, I think classroom education is important. I think you'll see some classroom education come back into the mix. It might not just be to the scale, because there were over 100 sessions, and some of those sessions had 3 people in them. They weren't being utilized, is I guess what my point is, which is why the decision was made from the expo team to say, hey, we're going to take a different approach in education this year. Everybody said they want something different. They want to see on floor stuff and everything like that. That's why we went that direction, because I came in right at that time. And I think I can say that they'll look at the, post-mortems and everything. And if the overwhelming consensus is, hey, bring some of this stuff back, I think you'll see it. That's what my experience has been, is they'll look and listen and try to do what they can with what the majority of people say they want to do. But to your other point, I can totally see what you say. And I think that's part of the things we have to fix now, is getting, one, kind of the apparel decorating community represented at a higher level in that data to make it more relevant. And two, no matter how big your shop is, economic indicators and inflation hits everybody. Doesn't matter if you've got 500 employees or you're by yourself. The cost of inks going up, where people, all that kind of information that is in the nitty gritty bowels of those reports, I think can be applied to any size business, because there are I guess shops on the other side, as I'm coming to understand, that are in the same, maybe they're under $200,000 a year in revenue, under $250,000 a year in revenue. They still find value in those reports. Why is it that we can't find value in them?
I have to admit, I don't know how many seminars were available at the Vegas show, especially on the textile printing side. I don't even know who was putting on some of those presentations, to be honest with you.
Well, so there was no classroom sessions at 2022 in Vegas. The last time there were classroom sessions was 2019. And that was long before I was here. But what happened is we did a post-show kind of survey of everybody who took those classes and looked at the numbers of people who took those classes in relationship to the number of people that came to the event. And that data paired with the survey responses is that, hey, these are either the same tracks that you've had for years and they need to be freshened up, or I'm not finding value in these speakers and these sessions. Or I think there was over 100 tracks or something like that. That was the feedback from the attendees, which drove the decision to go, let's try to put everything on the floor, do keynote style presentations, and educational opportunities with people speaking, or if it's hands-on demos like Charlie, you helped out in the apparel zone. Feedback was good on that. Like people actually liked that. Because they were able to kind of connect with people, see something, and then go find it and source it on the show floor.
Yeah, I wanted to chat with you about the apparel zone, actually, and not at this particular time. I mean, I'd rather do it one-on-one with you.
There's a lot of things that are going to change with that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is not the place to air dirty laundry type of thing, but certainly I have my own feelings about how I would have set it up a little differently. I think the biggest issue that was there, I don't think people realize that the apparel zone was the apparel zone. I mean, somebody actually came through and saying, whose booth is this, or whose island is it? I don't think they recognized the fact that it was the apparel zone. It was a bit on the disjointed side. And of course, I had my own issues with the particular image that I was printing, et cetera. Knowing that it wasn't supposed
we
to be
know that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, and we won't get into that, but to me, certainly it wasn't supposed to be a promotional thing for any one company. It seemed to work its way that way anyhow. But certainly I'd love to chat with you on a one-on-one basis on how I would probably approach it a little differently.
No, I would love to hear that feedback. And yeah, that was actually, so we've gotten our kind of initial post-show results back, and we're kind of looking at that. That's actually where I am this week, is I'm up in Philly, and we're doing post-con meetings and breaking all this stuff down. The good news is that the concept worked. Yeah, there's 1,000 things we could have tweaked and done better, and we should. But like I said, we were dusting our boots off and getting back on the horse. The proof of concept came through overwhelmingly, and the
I
results
agree
that
with-
I've seen is okay. This is the way to go. But even from what it ended up being from the initial vision, it was nowhere near what the initial vision was, because we had to go out there and convince everybody of this vision, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you used to do this." No, but it's not the same. It's a different approach. It's a different tactic. And a few people got it. Most people, even with kind of those who were participating, were waiting and seeing. I've had 100% requests for renewal from everybody, and I'm not going to be able to accommodate that, quite honestly, because it needs to change shape, and it needs to be, segmented. The initial layout had the whole thing segmented, right? Every lack of walls between technologies, everything was compartmentalized. But to garnish participation to prove this, we had to kind of draw outside the lines a little bit, but it got us to where we needed to be with this was probably the best feature on the show floor from any segment, as far as the technology and the people walking through it, giving the area a home, just kind of a beacon of, hey, this is where most of this stuff is. I mean, I think from an expo perspective, we have a world of way to go to get to where we need to be, but creating real neighborhoods, not soft neighborhoods, right? And I'm not in charge of the expo, so I'm kind of speaking out of turn here. But in my vision, and what it would be is, people need to know where they're going to shop, right? You can't just throw everything in the floor and say, go find it, right? That's not a good experience, and that's what it was up until 2019. And then it started to kind of change. And this is only the second show. So, Rome wasn't built in a day, they say.
Well, I mean, certainly the first show I would throw out. I mean, obviously, when you have a show right after, quote unquote, the pandemic hits, that's always a tough one. Listen, I love the idea of the whole apparel zone. I just think that, and I do think that there was some successful parts of it. I just think it could have been, well, like anything else, after you've done it once, you can kind of go back in and make adjustments. And so, I'd love to
Exactly.
be involved with that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely something we'll be talking about come first quarter of next year and start dialing all that stuff in. Once we fully digest kind of what everybody's thoughts were and feelings, because everybody's got an opinion on it, which that just says we did something right because it got people talking, versus just being pessimistic that Printing United wasn't going to do anything about this community and they're just going to let it go. No, apparel decoration, screen printing, textile screen printing has a home in the printing industry at whole. And we have an idea of how big of that slice of a pie it should be, and should be in perpetuity, just like the other segments. That's the whole idea of what we're trying to do here is, put everything together under one roof. And it might not serve the same people that did, for forever, but it will serve, I think, the future. The more multi-technology shops that are popping up, the more people that are getting into it. Like I said, I mean, that first tour in the zone, Charlie, I had 30 people on day one. The morning tours had 30 people each. The afternoons got smaller as the show got busier and people got kind of distracted by other things. But each morning I asked, how many of you are currently decorating? And this is shops that were, people who own franchise print shops like Minutemen print shops, all the way up to $400 million commercial printers. And the most answers I got were 3 of the 30 who said they were currently decorating. That's how much I think things are changing, and people are looking at this as a way to continue to diversify their revenue streams. I mean, there's untapped potential for growth of market share for apparel decoration in the printing industry. And it's all in this fine print that Cassie writes and the details that Andy puts out in his reports, where we can reference other studies. We did a proprietary research study for a client this past year, and we used some Deloitte studies. Everybody knows Deloitte, right? Big consumer research, outfit. And they did some studies when it came to like custom apparel, and that, like, 80% of people were aware that it was an option, an economical option for a need they had, but only 20% were buying. So if you look at that delta, like that's how much potential there is for growth that we believe in this market there is out in the marketplace abroad. And somebody's going to get it. The people who've been printing or the people who are getting into it, one of the two.
Yep. Okay. I've run out of questions, to be honest with you. And certainly I appreciate you coming on. I guess
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, your computer skills seem to be about at my level. I've finally figured out how to get my face on a monitor. And I guess at the moment you were able to get your face on, but not your voice. So
oh yeah.
I'm feeling good about the fact that my computer skills may be about equal to yours, but they're probably much lower.
For something I use every day, it's sure frustrating.
I use it every day only because I have to, but nevertheless, thanks so much for coming on. I don't see any point in, Charles, you have anything that you want to bring in?
No, nothing.
Okay. Andrew?
No, it's a
I guess
good conversation. Yeah.
Well, I have recorded this, so if anybody needs a copy, it'll be on my website, tabletconsulting.com. Otherwise, Josh, look forward to chatting with you on a one-on-one level whenever you want. Certainly, I'm going to be laid up right after the Long Beach show because I'm having knee replacement surgery the day after or 2 days after the show. So I'll have plenty of time to chat.
Well, yeah, and hopefully I can actually get in front of you so you can what was I say, see my snarky face sometimes, but no, I think that would be good. And I do want to take you up on, because you were one of the people who actually stayed and hung out with us there. So I do want to take you up on getting your feedback on the zone, because there's going to be some changes. I think it's going to be the same idea. We can do a better educational job of it, like curating some static things that are there for everybody to see that wouldn't require somebody to be talking necessarily, but still get the point across. There's a load of things, like kind of a laundry list we can go through. I can kind of tell you where our head's at, and as always, man, I'd love to hear your take on it.
Terrific. Well, look forward to chatting with you, and thanks again for being on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We'll see you next time.
Terrific. Thanks again.
All right, yeah.
Charles, Andrew, nice having you guys. Look forward to seeing. Charles, you coming out to the show in January, or are you passing again?
No, I usually not able to get to that one in January because we have middle school basketball that starts at that time, and we end up doing like 30 different teams that we're outfitting. So it's usually a very bad time for us to go. Yeah,
I know you'd lose your hair over something like that, but you're too far behind. It's already gone.
Yeah.
I used to hate. Well, I actually worked for a company in Denver that did all athletic stuff, and teams like that would drive me out of my mind. Fortunately, I didn't have to do the printing or anything on it, but it's just a lot of work.
Yeah, they are, for sure.
Thanks so much for being on. Andrew and Charles, if you have any thoughts about anyone that you'd like to have on this thing, let me know. And I will certainly try and get in touch. I'm going to see if I can talk to, what's his name from that you recommended, Andrew?
Oh, Bruce. Yeah.
I'll chat with him at the Long Beach show and see what he has to say.
Yeah.
But I'll see who I can come up with for December 20th. This is a time I may bail on everybody and just kind of do a wrap up on my own because it's a time of the year where nobody really wants to get involved with anything.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. In any event, look forward to seeing you in Long Beach. Charles, nice to have you on. Good luck with your numbers and with your team situation. And if there's anything I can do, just let me know.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. It's good talking to you.
Thanks, guys.
See you in a few weeks, Charlie.
Bye.